Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by these great sponsors. Axon started out of a passion for keeping agriculture moving. Imagine having 100 years of tire and wheel knowledge in your back pocket the next time you sell a piece of ag equipment. To find more or become an Axon dealer, please visit agmarkets.com. This podcast is also brought to you by Valley Transportation. Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 or go to valleytransinc.com for all your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. This podcast is also brought to you by Ag Direct. No matter how you buy your ag equipment, from a dealer, auction, or a private party, Ag Direct can help you finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. Learn more about your financing options at agdirect.com.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving Iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast. Markiets with Shawn Hackett. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Axon Tire, helping dealers move more iron for the past 100 years. For more information, just go to axontire.com. Shawn, do you like free stuff in general?
Well, that free pocket knife, I've been using it every morning for my lemons.
Have you? Well, I've got even a better deal for you now. So
Sure.
I know in the hot Florida sun, your tires might get overinflated because of the heat. So if you need something to check that with, they were giving away a free digital tire pressure gauge. And then when you're hitting the beach, you can cut the sleeves out of your new Firestone t-shirt and wear it down to the beach and get your pose down on any given day. So if you want one of those, just go to marketing@axontire.com and you'll get a free one. Just give them your details, tell them Moving Iron Podcast sent you, and they'll send you a free Firestone t-shirt and a free digital tire pressure gauge. So I don't know about you, but I'm fired up about that, Shawn.
Our operators waiting for my call.
Just like time life used to be. You know what I mean? There you go. All right. So Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 for all your trucking needs, or go to valleytransinc.com. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. And finally, no matter how you buy your ag equipment, from a dealer, an auction, or a private party, Ag Direct can help you finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. Learn more about your financing options at agdirect.com. Shawn is with Hackett Financial out of Boca Raton, Florida, and he is kind enough to come on a couple times a year to talk about what's going on in the marketplace. So, Shawn, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing real good.
Well, I'll tell you what, the markets have been on a tear. You know, we had the prospective acreage report come out. Corn is no longer king, according to that report, and we're reading some reports this morning where they're looking like Ukraine is talking like 21+% of their area may not get planted this year just because of what's going on there. It's got the markets going good. We got a bunch of different stuff out there. We had another explosion in values pop up the other day on what you see in the grain market complex. So I guess, what's your reaction to what you're seeing here, Shawn?
Well, the problem is that this whole Russian invasion, Ukraine situation has put the market on edge. There's just no room for anything but everything to go perfectly. And so when something goes a little bit from perfectly, like the planting intentions report that said, 2 million less acres than everyone was expecting. You look at the balance sheet, it doesn't really work very well, Casey.
Right.
I mean, the numbers don't work well. So it either means the demand has to come down by very high prices, or we need to get a few million extra acres planted, and or both. So, and then on top of it, it's not like there's anything new about drought in the Southern Plains, Casey wheat area, but somehow last night people were shocked. That's the worst rated crop ever, but It's been the worst rated crop ever
for a long time.
For a long time. I mean, there's absolutely nothing new that was gleaned from last night that we didn't already know from the lack of rainfall and the winter weather that we've had and how we began the planting season last fall. Absolutely nothing new, but somehow the market was surprised and they're up strongly today, 40, 45, 50 cents.
Yeah.
But it still comes down to the idea that anything that's off kilter, even just by a little bit, you're going to get a violent reaction because we have no buffer stocks, unless the situation in Ukraine turns out, better than we're anticipating. And maybe it will, maybe it won't. But right now, the market's going to assume the worst. Right now, just as the growing season is about to begin, and all the weather's in front of us. Pump up all the risk, all the weather premium now, and then adjust it accordingly as you go along.
Yeah.
So
okay. And some other news. They were talking about Kazakhstan's talking about maybe not exporting any wheat right now too. So that kind of goes to show where we're at in the world as far as wheat supplies go. So the wheat for once is kind of a leader here, and not necessarily a distant follower.
Well, it's a leader. Obviously, the Russian situation is the most bullish for wheat. I will say, always trying to be balanced now, and looking at a market. But Russian exports of wheat in March are up substantially from a year ago in March. So it appears they're selling wheat as fast as they can that they have. So they don't appear to be holding any wheat back at all. In fact, they're putting pedal to the metal and selling as much as they can. And it doesn't mean that the wheat market's bearish, but I would also suggest to you that, one needs to be a little careful about, nothing's going to come out of the region. I still feel everybody needs money and China needs the supply. And so, I think one ought to keep a balanced approach. I understand the bullishness. I understand the horrific conditions in the southern plains, especially the western southern plains, and certainly some weather risk premium now is warranted. But I would be careful about thinking that we know for sure what's going to happen in Ukraine and that's a done deal. I still think there's a lot we may be surprised about, and it may not be all bullish. So.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Let's talk about crude oil for a minute, just because of where we're at going into harvest and the price for fuel that we already see. Our harvest planting season. I tell you, price of oil has just been on a tear here over the last couple of days, especially. What are your thoughts there, and what do you see happening?
What's that, Casey? What was
oil.
That? Oil. Oh, crude oil.
Mm-hmm. Crude oil.
Once again, I think we made that blow off top like we made in wheat. We've had the correction. Biden administration is trying to use the extra supplies out of the storage here in the U.S. to try to keep price, but that's a short-term Band-Aid.
Yeah.
That's not going to create a long-term issue. At the end of the day, either demand's going to come down a lot, meaning a big recession later in the year, or we need to be producing a heck of a lot more domestically, which we could if there was support behind it. But that's still a long-term situation, or if the Russian situation really calmed down, it's really hard to see a protracted decline in crude oil prices. Much below 100 until or unless something in Russia kind of calms down, or the Middle East, or specifically Saudi Arabia says, we're going to turn it on and sell as much as we can, and we're going to really, use all that excess capacity we have and flood the market, or we would need something to change. And right now, we're not seeing any movement in any of these directions that would suggest why $100 barrel oil isn't going to be maintained here for a while.
Yeah.
Driving season's coming.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that, weren't as free as Florida was, and it's only just now getting out and want to go out and drive around and do things. So, you look at home price appreciation, trillions upon trillions upon trillions of value created for those that own homes. There's still people with money out there, and even though inflation's high and the cost of living is high, it's going to be a little tough to put that genie in the bottle for now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last thing on that top, the U.S. dollar index has gotten hit here over the week, and it's been weaker quite a bit throughout the last week and a half or so. As you take a look there, you start looking at exports and those kind of things. What are your thoughts with the U.S. dollar right now? And ultimately, if there's not a lot of product to export because of where they're at now, and then pricing where it's at right now, especially when it comes to wheat. You start looking at people that just I guess the question I'm trying to ask you here is long-term exports with the dollar the way it is, and the price of wheat, for example, the way where it's at right now. when do people stop coming to the table because of the price of wheat and the other commodities coming out of the U.S.?
We need to show someone's going to have a good crop. Now, and by the way, right now, once again, trying to be balanced, Russia's winter wheat crop looks really big right now. I mean, it's not done yet. It's not in the bin. It's not over, but it's got big potential. We're talking about upper 80s in terms of million metric tons of wheat. That would be, it wouldn't be a record, but it'd be pretty close. We just need somebody to have big supply and take some of the pressure off of the Ukraine situation and take some of the pressure off some of the poor crops we had last year. Like the second crop corn in Brazil, the terrible spring wheat crops we had. I mean, we need someone to say, hey, we're going to have a big crop. We're going to have a lot of supply. We're going to be willing sellers, and we're going to be okay for a while. And we just can't say that right now. But I think that's what you're going to need in order to calm the market down. Until then, it's going to trade every little thing that doesn't look good aggressively because it's worried right now that we may not have enough if things don't work out. And that's a rational, justified action to be taking right now, for sure.
Right on. Okay, so the high price of feed, the cattle market is actually kind of holding its own. You would think there'd be some issues there, but it's really doing okay. I mean, it's you see some things that are fire up here. You see some intraday volatility and those kind of things, but for the most part, it's doing all right. As you take a look at the cattle market with the feed prices that we're seeing right now, what are your thoughts there?
Well, we're starting to get some weakness. The feeders have been really hit hard here the last week. The fats now, the live cattle are starting to come down. We've even been seeing an aggressive sell-off in the hogs after a big rise. It seems like the market's getting worried about another round of herd liquidation. The drought in the western ground is looking like it's going to continue, and at least through the spring. And of course, then on top of it, the market, because of Ukraine's worried about the economy later this year. So it looks like we have a black swan event for livestock. Even milk prices are starting to fall. Just seems to me the market's starting to price in some extra herd liquidation supply and maybe some weakening demand. And so that's the other side of the grain trade right now. The more the grains get pumped up, the more the livestock sector is getting pumped down. Now, that won't go on forever, and it will offer a wild boomerang effect in the livestock market. But we have to get the market feeling we've made the top, and obviously we're not there yet.
Right on. Well, Shawn, good stuff as usual. Folks want to reach out to you and get more information about what it is that you have going on at Hackett Financial. What's the best way to do that?
Our website is Hackett, Hackett, advisors.com. We have all kinds of information on there to let your listeners know what we do, to see if we can be of value going forward in any of the activities they have in agriculture.
Well, good stuff. Well, Shawn, thanks for being on the podcast, man.
Anytime, Casey. I always look forward to it.
Right on. I'm Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you find the latest editions of the Moving Iron Podcast. Also go to LinkedIn and my YouTube channel, Moving Iron Podcast YouTube channel. Check that out and see what's going on there. You can also go to MovingIronLLC.com for everything Moving Iron related. Also, all the information for the Moving Iron Summit coming up in Nashville, Tennessee, September 6, 7, and 8. Shawn will be there talking about what's going on with the weather as we switch from La Nina to El Nino. And what that weather pattern looks like. So, Shawn, I'll be there. Shawn, appreciate you being on the podcast, man, and we will check you again Thursday. If you have a question for Shawn, send it to me for Q&A Thursday with Shawn Hackett. I'll make sure to get that read on the air here. So, with that, I'm Casey Seymour, Shawn Hackett. Let's go move some iron, folks. Out. Axon Tire is going to have more tips, tricks, and client advice throughout the year, and in September at the Moving Iron Summit in Nashville. If you're looking to sign up for the event, please head over to MovingIronLLC.com. We hope to see you there. Valley Transportation has been hauling ag and construction equipment across the country for the past 33 years. Call Parker at 800-657-4910 or go to valleytransitinc.com for all of your trucking needs. At Valley Transportation, our goal is to help you reach yours. And no matter how you buy ag equipment from a dealer, auction, or a private party, AgDirect can help you finance it. You can even apply online at agdirect.com. Learn more about your financing options at agdirect.com.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find Move